Yes. Well. Okay. So here we are again. Then, what you got to tell me this time?
Well, I don't know.
We just make this up. We just like go on the fly.
Like we always do. So welcome back to Sanctuary's sort of Sanctuary Fitness Condition podcast with me, Nick Schofield,
and me, Tom Williams.
And today we want to just extend on what we covered for the first podcast, really, and just again probably focus on the basics. I think rather than talking real depth science and real depth things and how to do it. Let's just look at getting those little things right, and if we can get the little things right, that'll cause a huge difference. So today we want to cover habits.
Probably in many respects, like kind of the things that helped us.
Yes.
So from a PT's perspective, kind of what are the key habits that we kind of picked up along the way that's stood us in good stead and made us the fine specimen of man that we are today.
I wish. We would say there's no magic bullet, and people, again, we go back to that quick fix. I want something now, and I want results now, and it's just not going to happen. If you're looking to lose weight, that weight, you didn't go to bed one night, wake up and go, shit, where did all this weight come from? It gradually came on, so you're not going to get it off in 24 hours. So it's going to be a gradual reduction in weight, and it's like a long process. It's a long process. Getting the habits right is something that we do with our members at Sanctuary. We give them a number of habits. We work with them to let them choose their own, and we track those. We track those really well. What habit do you think that you find useful these days, Tom?
Oh, well, there's so many. I think, like I say, like habits is the key word. And that's why we always reiterate consistency all the time, because consistency leads to habits, doesn't it? Like, and so when you come in, you will have a load of habits already. You'll have lots of quote unquote bad habits. Like you say, your understanding of food and maybe your understanding of exercise is off, so it leads you to these kind of bad habits. You might have heard that you can't eat this at a certain time, you can't eat that at a certain time, that type of stuff. So I think for me, I kind of need to break it down into probably different parts, because there's like the younger generation of me when I was playing football all the time, sport, gym, and it was just kind of what I did and kind of who I am now. So in terms of, diet, I would say for me, one of the key things that I did, as much a habit such as anything else, was that I actually looked into kind of what the healthy foods, quote unquote, actually did for my body. And again, it's not essentially a habit as such, but it is kind of like if you're going to call it a habit, the habit of education, let's do that. Sort of thing, where you actually take an interest in your body, an interest in kind of, why do I feel this way? And like I say, my diet, like most of us when we first started in the fitness industry, is like, I just need protein and gains. And so it didn't really matter what it was. It was just, if it had protein in it, I'd just lob it in my face. That's kind of how it started out. But, when I was younger, kind of like a lot of us, I suppose, like the greens, the veggies, the fruits, that type of stuff, it took a back seat to just what I wanted to put in my mouth. And I think we mentioned just before we started filming, the kind of classic, well, just get it down, you lad, it's good for you. Do you know what I mean? It's like probably not enough information to motivate me to eat the broccoli and whatever else, which I actually love now. So I looked into some of these things, and like I say, I definitely say one of the habits is actually start trying to take an interest in your health and well-being outside of like fat loss, outside of just being able to lift massive weights, and actually have a look at, what is going to make me feel better. And there's obviously a load of things that we're going to cover today that will go down that sort of route. But I think that one of the first things for me was actually taking an interest in it. Before I became a PT, I kind of was on that track already, which then made me think, I might as well be a PT. Because I took an interest in it.
I know. Like you try and educate yourself, and I remember following and listening to a podcast, and it was a nutritionist, and she said the key moment that made me realise that I have to do my own education is she'd done a master's in dietetics, I think it was, and she said I was being taught stuff about nutrition, but you're always going to have a kind of bias from the individual, and it's not until you go out and actually start finding information and kind of educating yourself and looking at what the research says or what the information says, and then you can critically evaluate and go, well, actually, they're giving me a bias of what they say is the best thing, and actually this could be this. So that education part is a good one, and this is what we try to do. And again, that's why we're sat here. Really, is trying to educate you, but just giving you more information to make an informative decision rather than just following the crowd as such.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what we kind of touched on in the first episode, which was trying to find maybe a PT, maybe a coach, or maybe a source of information that kind of aligns with your goals and your expectations, but like properly aligns, not just something as simple as like, well, they look shredded, I'm going to go with them. It's like, does that person share any similarities with you? And then you're more likely to get the information that you need because you're actually listening to someone or speaking with someone that has been through your experience. Not that you have to, but it does help if you kind of understand the experience. Again, you're a 22-year-old trainer speaking to a 60-year-old who's just started exercising. Right, mate, here's your toaster bar and your muscle ups, and it's like, well, hang about, that type of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that on the education side, I try to take an interest. Like I say, I mean, you obviously background is kind of a bit more scientific than like probably Joe blogs, but
you hate it when I'm going down the scientific.
Yeah, but like, scary, mate. Any chance of just like winding this down a little bit, mate? Because you've lost. We'll use Karen again from the last episode. You've lost Karen already, mate, because you've gone into absolute biomechanics and all sorts of stuff there. But taking interest in it is one of the key ones for me. But yeah, what about you?
So it's a bit, again, probably nutrition, because it's such I think it can confuse a lot of things. A lot of people sprouting a lot of shit on social media, and it confuses a lot of people. It confuses. But for me, it's more that just, again, I'll go back to basics. I love the basics. It's very simple.
It work, mate.
Yeah, and it's portion size. And I think in an era of where money's tight for a lot of people, we go out and eat anywhere, and we want to get value for money. We don't want to waste money. So when we see that portion size for X amount, we'll eat that portion size because we don't want to lose money. But then it distorts our view on portion sizes, and then when you go home, you transfer that across home, you expect big. But when you actually you look at the portion size and measure it, and I'm not saying measure it all the time. Once you get used to those portion sizes, you go, actually that's quite small. That is quite small, but I'm used to such a big plate and being full.
We're shifting goals, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ultimately, like your goal when you're eating was pleasure.
Yeah, and value for money.
Value for money, feeling full at the end of it, or feeling stuffed at the end of it. And like you say, to switch that round and actually get a normal portion sizing is a
and I know shift. The old school view from, I know when I was I'm a young lad, but from the old school, it was like, you can't leave the table until you finish your dinner. And you know what I mean? Is that a real good, maybe we just use that, for my kids anyway, it was let's let you get off the table when you've had your greens. That's nutritious food. I'm more bothered about you eating that, and when you finish that, I know you've not taken on a lot of calories, but you've got some nutrients in there, and now you can leave the table. And let's talk, for kids, if we can set that up, then that's great, because if you can, they'll always have I'm stuffed, but you've got enough room for something, sweet, always. Do you know what I mean? So let's get some decent nutrition in them. So just getting those portion sizes, not distorting those portion sizes, and nailing that basics again. Yeah,
it's true that, I mean, sorry, from my workplace, when we all sit and eat together, I'm the only one who may leave something on my plate. And quite often I do leave a little bit on my plate each time, because the portion sizes at work are bigger than what I normally would eat anyway. But most of the guys there have said what you just said, where it's like, oh, well, I wasn't allowed to leave the table. Until I finished all my dinner and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, they're probably signs of, say, bad habits. I'm not trying to rag on everyone's parents who did this, by the way. It's just old school sort of thinking, and it does distort, like, say, what portion sizes are, and that's probably leads into kind of the sort of habit I'd like to bring up, which everyone will probably go when I say it, but that is like tracking your calories.
It
does, like, it is a ball and chain. I get it. It can be a ball ache just to track your calories and stuff. But again, I think going back to the beginning, like with the education part, like become a student with all of this stuff. And if you look at tracking your calories as like an educational tool rather than a ball and chain that I've got to do this, otherwise I'm going to stay fat forever. You learn so much from it. And like I say, portion size is one of those things because you're forced into having to structure your meals and build your meals around a certain amount of calories. And then therefore your portion size will have to reflect that. Consistency of eating. Having some sort of pattern at all.
Yeah.
In fact, like, you've got so many people who, again, like the habit is, well, when I feel hungry, I eat. And then I eat what I want to eat because it's about pleasure in my mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, you get a habit of eating, a pattern of eating, portion control, regular calories each day. Like, so your energy levels aren't fucking up here one day and then down here the next day, that type of stuff. So once I started tracking my calories, I also realised, because again, when I was saying I was super active when I was younger, I was chronically under fueling myself.
Yeah.
That's why I was 6'2" and 11.5 stone, looking like a racing snake.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is, as annoying as it is to say everybody, like say the magic bullet and all that kind of stuff, tracking calories is kind of a big one. Even if you only do it for a few months, like it will teach you so much about what's
definitely
in your food and how to control your diet.
Yeah, and I know for me, I've always been underweight. I was in the military. I was underweight and struggled until I started putting on size. And again, it was refueling myself properly to get that keep that muscle on. And since leaving the army, I've tried to put a little bit more weight in, so I've now consciously started tracking again. I won't say tracking, I know what I can eat, which means if I eat this, I'm now in a surplus and I'm going to put weight on, fine. And now I'm trying to reduce that to get rid of any residual fat that I'm carrying.
Sure.
I'm just going to reduce those calories. And it's easy for me to go, I know this is what I eat, I'm just going to... and because I'm educated in that, I can just reduce this, add that, take that away, etc. But again, I would say, and just what you said there was, is eating regular. And now I'm on a kind of calorie deficit. Remember, my shit stinks as well. I'm not special. So there's days that if I haven't planned it right and I've gone hungry, guess what? I'm reaching for something that's fast. It's chocolate bar. It's it's something simple, and it's poor choices. And that is if you've not planned your day out right, or you've not, you've got something, that's carried you over to the next meal. You're gonna. I do it. I'm not special. Like I say, shit stinks.
Exactly that. And I think like you touched on the point there, like I say, in regards to meals and food and stuff that we probably should have spoke about in the first episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, like being prepared, and that doesn't have to be like. I mean, yeah, look, it can be easy if you want to just do a Sunday and you batch cook all your meals for the whole week. Then look, you're on to a winner with that. But again, it's not always easy to do that. I get sick. I don't do it. Like I don't want to eat the same thing 5-6 days in a row. So, but what you can do is, like you say, when you do make a meal, cook for more than just yourself. Rather than that one portion, let's make enough for the tomorrow at least, or something like that. Or shout out Kitchen HQ. Use a meal prep company, and again, at least have your lunches sorted or your tea sorted, whatever it is. So on them days where you've had a shitter at work, you just want to stab your boss. But you come home and you can't be arsed and Mackey's is calling, you've got something in the fridge. Yeah. You've got something ready to go. And that is a big one, to be fair. Like, it's a good habit to get in, as like saying, having stuff around you so that when you feel like you aren't in the mood to cook something, to make the perfect meal or to stay within your calories, you've got less of an excuse because it's there.
And I'm a big believer, for me anyway, my breakfast and my lunch is pretty stable. It is the same thing day in, day out, depending on. So, let's give an example. When I'm coaching at Sanctuary, I will make myself breakfast because I don't want to eat breakfast there and then. I'll take it with me and I'll eat it while I'm setting up. Fine. If I'm at home, then I'll have something slightly different because I've got a little bit more time. But my lunches are standard jacket potato, tuna, or some sandwich filler on top that's dead easy and dead quick to make. I get the frozen potatoes, so it's dead easy to throw it in. 5 minutes, bang, I've got a decent meal there. So I ain't got to faff around. Evening meal I'll have with family, obviously. You know, you've got to do that. And that's
food on table, woman.
Yeah. and to be fair, she controls that. So so yeah, it's
don't overcomplicate it.
No, don't
overcomplicate it. Like you say, I mean, there's some. I mean, even if you do want to overcomplicate it, you've got things like HelloFresh and things like that now. But again, they all require prep time, and there's some long cooking periods with that sort of stuff.
And you've got to be careful as well. Some of those are massively high calories, so you've got to be very careful. Yeah,
but yeah, like don't complicate food. Again, I suppose you're switching from food to fuel, which is something we're going to cover in a future pod. But like that kind of switch from food to fuel is that, right, okay, well, what do I need? Like, yeah, it doesn't have to taste like shit and be bland as anything, do you know what I mean? But you can, like you say, have something real simple and go, right, well, this is an easy breakfast for me when I'm on the go, or in the morning when I'm trying to get the kids up for school run or whatever. Maybe you don't have breakfast, but then, you know, your lunch, what's your lunch looking like? Is it something that you can just heat up? Is it ready to go? Like, it doesn't have to be 15, 16 different ingredients, like cordon bleu, chef, like Michelin style food and cooking like that. Keep it simple. I mean, something we started doing recently, again, you know, through the years of like dealing with hundreds of clients as it is now, speaking to lots of different people, is like trying to fine tune this approach of how we structure your day. And one of the things that I'd sort of come up with the idea of is like, to go, right, pick 3 to 5 meals. So if you're going to eat 3 meals a day, let's say lunch, breakfast, lunch and dinner, pick 3 to 5 meals for each one. Start there, all right? Then make sure you add to that over time so you don't get sick to death of it. Yeah. But it keeps it simple. Then rather than, it's so easy, like, because what we used to do is like, there's your calories, away you go. Figure it out. The rest of it is if like, well, you can freestyle your way through this now, but it takes experience to be able to freestyle. I know we've gone off into a bit like food and stuff right now, but I'm going to just dive into this rabbit hole right now. But but it takes experience to be able to freestyle and know what to pick up on the go. Because otherwise you'd end up at like 5 o'clock and you're like, oh shit, I burnt through all my calories because you freestyled through the day. Yeah. So pick 3 to 5 meals per meal sitting that you know sit in your calories. Keep it simple, stupid, as the old sort of phrase is, and then you'll, like you were mentioning earlier, reduce the noise around all this type of stuff where you go, what shall I pick? Or there's this, or there could be this, or it could be that. You ain't got them choices anymore. Yeah. You've narrowed it down, so it makes it a lot easier to not fuck up. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. In terms of other habits, for me, I would suggest sleep is a big one. It's a game changer, and I remember seeing a motivational quote, and it was big Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't need sleep. I'll cut my sleep down because then I can be more productive a day.
Sleep when you're dead.
Yeah, and I'd say probably in the military I was running on 6 hours sleep, daily, and the repercussions of not eating at least 7 hours is like massive. And I'm currently reading a book that is really interesting on Lifetime by Russell Forrester, I think it is. So he's looking at circadian rhythm and sleep, and the implications of not having sleep. It's wild, from knocking your hormones all over the place, which means you're going to eat more. You don't become satisfied with food more, so you're eating more, so you increase the risk of health issues. So just getting your sleep hygiene is and I've done it in Mansfield a lot, and people are getting frustrated with me because and now my sleep is great, but it's getting that sleep hygiene right. It's making sure you're getting that sleep. So as the usual, reduce your phone or technology before you go to bed. Read a book. Like I say, Lifetime's a good one. Make sure the room's cool. Make sure it's cool. You've got to have that room cool to let you go to sleep. And it's suggested that maybe some white noise, that a noise in the background that cuts all the noise out everywhere else, and focus on that sleep. It doesn't matter if you wake up in the middle of the night, especially when my age, you pop into the toilet, have a little tinkle. It's as long as you get back to sleep. So do what you need to do, what you shouldn't be doing, and I hope I'm not a lot of people do that is, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I've just gone for a pee, I'll just check what's happening on Facebook or whatever, because then it's not, there's no research to suggest that the light is bright enough to wake your brain up. It's just more that your brain awakes because you're reading, and now it's getting, it's interesting. The information, So I think if you can hit again basics, nice and simple, get that sleep right. Again, mental health issues, everything. You are ready for the day. You're energized. You're good to go.
Massive, mate. And again, it was something I had to look at, but sort of being a shift worker. But in particular, when we opened the gym and was working like all the shifts because we're trying to keep the cost down. So me and Sean are teaching 95% of the classes, and then I'm going off to work and I'm on my night shifts and stuff like that as well. The only thing I could control was sort of the time I went to bed, because the time I was getting up in the morning varied depending on where I was and what I was doing. And I think a bit like with diet and whether it's like regular calories or eating good quality food, you don't realise the impact it has on you until you've done it well for a bit. So if you sleep well for let's say just 2 weeks, even 4 weeks, and you eat well and consistently, and you're hydrated, like the difference in how you feel compared to when you just have 2 or 3 nights bad sleep, even just 1 night bad sleep. Everyone knows what it's like when you're knackered the next day. Like, if you don't know what that feels like, then it's just normal. And how many times you see people like literally limp their way through a day on 9 coffees or 5 Red Bulls or Monsters and that type of stuff. And it's like, well, have you ever actually been in a position where, like I say, you've regulated your sleep? Have you tried to go to bed at the same time? Now, look, it's easier said than done if you've got young kids and whatever else, newborn babies, that type of stuff. But try it. Like I say, try to get you 7 to 9 hours sleep a night. Try to have a consistent wake up and go to bedtime. Regulate your diet. Like I say, so you're eating the right amount of or the same amount of consistent calories each day and eating good quality foods. Like you wouldn't believe the difference it makes on your performance. Like you say, your mood, your hormones. On the sleep thing, there's a podcast I've shared a few times. Sorry, a TED talk I've shared a few times with the guys. It's a TED talk with his name's Tom Walker. It's all about sleep. And one of the things where the penny dropped for me with that was when he was talking about the immune system and how much it drops off if you get like something like 5 to 6 hours a night. And he was like, you literally halve the amount of kind of, for want of a better word, like immune fighters in your immune system. Like these people are going around, like these cells are going around fighting off all the germs and all the disease, like something that builds up in your system each day and every day. Like you halve that just from having like 5-6 hours of sleep in a night rather than having the 7 to 9. And it's like, he also said that you can't catch up with sleep.
No.
Once it's lost, it's lost.
No,
You can only just get back into a good sleeping pattern. So it is massive.
Yeah, definitely. And you can't catch up. They say that the impact has already happened. It's impact. And you need to make sure you can have they say a 20-minute power nap. Anything longer, you're going to knacker your sleep again, and then you knacker your circadian rhythm, etc. So it's just making sure that you get that. Like for me, for example, I'm up at 4 o'clock most mornings, getting ready and I leave the house at 5 to get to. But I go to bed at 8 o'clock at night to make sure that will give me enough time. If I'm still awake at 8:30, I'm twitching. I'm like, I can't, and get that routine. And once you got that routine again, and it's easy again for sleep. My youngest is 16. 16 soon. I haven't got young kids who are going to be waking me up at night. But as best you can, get that sleep.
Prioritise. Shall we try to surmise some of this then? Because I feel like we've just been talking about sleep and diet. So habits. What if we're saying we're going to surmise some habits, like sort of things that kind of made the biggest impact to you?
Yeah, well, like I say, sleep for me, and is that basics. The other thing I would say is I think you covered tracking for your food, but tracking for your exercise as well.
Yeah,
I think that's a thing that I met. So when I first left the army and moved to Retford, I was in the gym training. I got my notebook out and I'm tracking me.
Classic notebook.
and I still do it now. I track everything, and I met some good guys in one of the gyms, and they said, "What are you doing?" I'm tracking me. I'm an S&C coach, and I track everything just so I can see, and I know then consistently I can do it, and that's the key is just being consistent. You know what you're doing. I'm not winging it, and once you start tracking it, for me anyway, my opinion is you go from somebody exercising to someone training with purpose, and you see people come in, and it's the beginners. You see them come in, and they go around like a social butterfly. They hit all the machines because they think they have to hit all the machines.
Completed the gym today.
Yeah, and if you're tracking it, you're walking in and saying, right, I'm warming up with this. I am going to do my working sets with this. You know exactly what you're doing. And then in the back of your mind, as we discussed on the last podcast, if I'm getting to a certain weight and it feels heavy, today's the day I'm tired. I'm going to go with that as long as we got that. And I know for us with our superb app, we for our members, we track it, and we can look in, and I look in regular weekly with the members. I have a look at how well they're doing, what are they lifting. Are they what happened on that day? So when I see them, I can grab them and say, "You went down a weight there. Why have you gone down a weight? I didn't feel great. Okay, that's fine. Yeah." And we can track that. And over the time, I've sat there and said, "You came in and did an RDL at 40 kilos. Now you're RDLing at 60, 70 kilos. Remember." That is your journey. That's you've travelled, gone to there. So we're not looking at weight loss. We're looking at your strength as well.
It goes back to, like, say, seeing the wins again, doesn't it?
Exactly. Exactly.
You've got a measure of those victories.
Yeah.
Literally,
it's a measure of success. To me,
you're right. Actually, the tracking of both types. I mean, we often use the sort of terminology of like, well, we're kind of shooting in the dark.
Yeah.
If we don't know kind of either what your weights are, from just a PT perspective, it's like I want to see how you're moving, because not just are you improving, but it also might be a sign that we're not got your calories right.
Yeah.
You might not be fueling enough. You might be working too much. If I see your weight's dropping off, but you've been consistent in the gym, I'm looking at that thinking you're getting weaker. So there's either exercise we're not accounting for here with how much we're fueling ourselves and this type of stuff. So it tells you more than just, like you say, just, we're getting stronger, fantastic, or whatever else. But it gives you a gauge as well. So when we're talking about like your 8 out of 10, well, I'm going to come in, I'm going to work about 8 out of 10 today or whatever, like, or you feel like that. If you know what you did last week, at least you know what 8 out of 10 is for 100 kilos. Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you, like say, flying into the gym, it's like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to do this. And it's like, right, yeah, cool, but what did you lift last time? Oh, well, roughly this. It's like, well, you don't know where you're going or where you've been. And so therefore, how do we know that we're improving, or are we getting worse or better? Like, so that information is all there for you to sort of see. And again, go back to the diet and tracking calories from our perspective. You might see someone's like calorie tracker, like say we look on the app and we go, right, okay, cool. Oh, I see Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Oh, okay, bang on Monday to Thursday. There's nothing in there for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. All right, so then you go, oh, was Friday, Saturday, Sunday all right? Oh, yeah, it was probably all right. You didn't track it? No, but I think it was probably all right. And you're like, well, well, for me, it's no good to us. Do you know what I mean? Because when you come to me at the end of a certain amount of time and we go, Tom, I've not got the results I want. It's like, well, I look at your tracking and look at this and like, have we been honest? Have we not been honest? You just don't know. But like I say, it's that it gives you some sort of gauge. You can look back at that yourself and go, you know what? Fucking hell, I missed like 17 days out of these 30. Yeah. You're like, well, then you'll turn around instead of going like, oh, well, tracking calories don't work for me. It's like, no, you didn't do tracking calories. You did sporadic tracking calories. And that's kind of why we are where we are. And like I said, they are good habits. Tracking things. Give yourself something. It hasn't got to be war and peace. Like you say, you haven't got to, go all in on this information. You just got to do the basics of it and kind of at least have a rough idea. Otherwise, like you say, you don't know what's working and what's not working and why it didn't work or why it did work. Because again, you fall off the wagon for a period of time or something forces you to. Maybe you have a baby. Maybe you are these things. Have an issue, illness, injury. When you come back to it, you don't know why.
Yeah.
Or where to start again. It's like, well, this seemed to work last time, but it's not working now. Yeah. It's like, you don't know what's different.
And you know me, I'm data driven, and I'm data driven, and I couldn't remember. I'm thick as mince. I can't remember what I lifted from one day to another. So it's just easy to have a look at that and go, okay. And the key word for me is progressively overload. If you're not progressively overloading, how are you going to expect to change? You know, you've got to challenge the systems, and the only way of doing that is being able to track what you're lifting, to be able to go, I've been doing this for 4 weeks now, I now need to kind of force a change. Let's add that weight, let's increase that. It only has to be a little bit, and then get that progressive overload, and you will develop and you will increase, etc. And it is
just to explain progressive overload, if anyone doesn't know what that means or what the terminology is in regards to why we use it. It is making sure that we are making progress over time. It's planning that into your workouts, again, like we do at the gym. You know, either it's resistance or it's volume, so i.e. the reps you do. So it might be that you did 100 kilos and we programmed it in for 5 reps, and you've been doing 5 reps, and then all of a sudden we've stepped up to 7 and you've done 7, and so we can see that kind of that constant progressive overload, that constant improvement effectively is planned into your cycle, so that we don't just, like say, freestyle into the gym and you've been lifting this 1 week and lifting that the next week. Although, like we say, we use RPE and stuff, which is rate of perceived exertion, so we use that so that an 8 out of 10 can be different in resistance, but at least we know you're working at an 8 out of 10, which again can be progressive overload. So
yeah, definitely, yeah.
Cool, mate. So let's round up. Come on, let's round up, because you've just had another one on the end there.
Oh no, I did, yeah.
You bolted another one on the end there, which was a key one. So I'm happy you did, mate. So so let's round up. So we've got be a student. I think was the first one.
Yeah, definitely be a student. Learn from it. And again, what do you take away from that? We speak to our members a lot and say, what have you learned from that today, or whatever, and again, I'll throw it back to the members. There's 2, we get people to track, we see all the data, and after a bit we go, you're in a place where you don't need to track anymore. I'm going to take the pressure off you. You don't need to track, you know what you're doing, everything is working. On other cases, we've had one, a big shout out to Helena, who's just like, she came to Sanctuary probably same time as what I did. She went on a weight loss goal. She achieved a weight loss goal, then become a runner. She's just done a half marathon at the weekend, smashed it. But we've then changed the calories. So she's been at that habit. She's got to where she needs to be. I'm now running. Okay, let's now change the calories. Let's get, let's stop you from losing weight. Let's put up those calories, and tracking has given us that ability to do that, and she's done really well. I don't know where else I'm going for that. I
like it.
I was just gobbing off.
Gobbing off.
But yeah,
standard.
Yeah.
So, like I say, but be a student. So, like I say, the tracking of the calories and stuff like that. So, I think the student thing is a key one, because it shifts your mindset as well. So when you come in, people there's this massive fear that, everyone's going to look at me and don't know what I'm doing and stuff. Whereas, so if you go in expecting to be a master, for want of a better word, then you're going to feel that kind of shame or judgment and that fear of coming in there, because people are going to think I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, you don't. Why the fuck would you?
Yeah.
You've never done it before.
Yeah.
So I don't go into anything thinking I'm going to dominate this when I've never done it in my whole life.
I'm going for a driving lesson. I just jumped in and just drove the car.
Give me the F1 car. I'm smashing it in around the Dubai circuit or whatever. So the student mindset actually gives you some sort of relief in regards to expectation, because you can then go in and ask questions and feel kind of like, am I right with this? Am I wrong with this? I'm learning. And when you put yourself into that, just like when you start a new job, maybe you do put yourself and think, I need to know everything, but you start a new job and you're training, you're learning the ropes. You're not expected to be amazing at your job in the first week or 2 weeks or maybe month or 6 months, depending on what it is. So the student mindset goes a long way, and it taught me a lot that, again, like, I'm not having to go into War and Peace, and I'm not having to read every single book and every bit of information, but at least something you can do is curate your social media a little bit. Follow a few people who are fitness influencers or better than influencers, like actual, professionals in the industry.
Yeah.
Who you trust and who you follow, and then you kind of start, at least then you've got it drip feeding into your feed, and you can pick up some bits and bobs as a student, sort of thing. But yeah, that's kind of habit 1, be a student. Tracking.
Yeah, tracking, definitely
so
tracking, yeah.
Both diet and
training.
Workouts.
Yeah. And nail the basics, really, with that. It's just, I'll always say it, and I know I'm going to say it on every podcast, nail the basics. Nail the basics, and that'll be fundamental. It is you'll just learn from that. And then finally, really, is the sleep hygiene. Get that sleep. So there are kind of 4 main habits that it will pay dividend to get those nailed. And then everything else will drop into place.
Yeah, I think if I can bolt on one last one without going too much into it, but probably would be, like you say, just that consistency of exercise. Sort of point where just make the habit of just going to the gym.
Yeah,
we're going to track weights, we're going to track this, but like let performance come secondary, especially when you're starting out. So like just make it about consistency. So if we had the 5, be a student, tracking both your diet and exercise. Just trying to fucking remember all this now. Sleep, definitely sleep. Make sure you get sleep. And then consistency in the gym. Yep. Just make sure you turn up. I don't care what it looks like to start off with. Just make sure you turn up. But I think they're probably a good 5.
They're a good start. Yeah,
starting
definitely.
Points, habits to sort of go with. But yeah, okay. Are we happy with that?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to gob off about?
No. I think again,
gobbing off.
It's living proof that not everyone should have a mic and a podcast.
That's going to be the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think
sign off with that.
Yeah, we're going to sign off with that. That we shouldn't be sat here, but we are here anyway.
But we are. So hopefully you've enjoyed that, and hopefully you listen to it again. Any habits that you guys have sort of used and you think would be beneficial, to share. Pop in the comments, DM us, any of that type of good stuff. Again, it's all different for everybody, and like I say, what worked for us might be different to what worked for you. So let us know, and we'll catch you next time.